Well, our topic today is about validation. If the user can enter it, it probably should be validated. And when we're talking about scripting in the client server environment, the question becomes, where do we validate it? Do we validate it on the client side, or do we validate it on the server side? And the answer might be surprising, is that we do both. That might be surprising to you because we always talk about not having redundant code, and that may seem like it's redundant to have things done on both the client and server side. But actually, there's good reasons for it. The client side gives instantaneous results to whether the form is valid or not. And it does it without sending data to the server, which in computer terms takes a lot of time. It takes time to go through the internet. It takes the server's resources to process it, all to find out that you forgot to enter your credit card number or something like that. Whereas the client side can report that error immediately. So client side has the advantage of immediacy. If there's a problem, it can immediately be reported and the user can correct it. However, there's a couple of issues with client-side scripting. First of all, it can be disabled. You can disable JavaScript in your browser, and that would sort of defeat any client-side browsing that client-side validation that existed. In addition to that, there are certain things that can't be validated on the client side that can be validated on the server side because the server has more access to resources. For example, if you were going to validate a credit card number, you could validate on the client side whether the number was in the right format, the right number of digits, only numbers, and so on. However, you would not be able to validate if that was in fact a valid credit card number. In other words, a credit card that was actually issued to someone. And you would not be able to validate if that credit card was stolen or not, or if the credit card was above its limit. You'd not be able to validate any of those things because the client side can't connect to a credit service like that. It either can't or it shouldn't. Let's put it that way. And therefore, that's an activity that happens in the secure environment of the web server. So what I want to do today is go over examples of both the client-side validation and the server-side validation. So let me start by looking at the example that I created. Let me remember to start Xampp first. And I put the files already in place. So they are in the place that they need to be for my particular server setup. So htdocs. And let me run the client-side validation first. Now, we've seen this example before, but I've altered it to make it a little more relevant. There's that example. Okay, we had this example before where you enter in the number of hours and the job type that someone has. And if you don't enter anything in, the form does not continue to submit to the page that it's supposed to. And if you only enter one thing in, same thing. However, if you enter both values in, it goes ahead and submits to the page that was supposed to be there to process it. Now, I made this an HTML page just for simplicity. Normally, that would be a PHP page or some other server-side scripting. But anyhow, here's the idea of client-side scripting. It's going to exist when we submit the form. And if the form is not valid, it's going to display an error message and not go on to the page that is being submitted to. If there's missing data or inaccurate data or whatever. If, however, the data is complete, it will submit to the page that it's supposed to. So let's look at the code that does that. We have a validate form function, which you have seen something similar to, if not exactly like this before. The validate form function looks at the text hours field. It trims it, checks to see if it's not numeric, and checks to see if it's less than 0. For the radio button, RB type, it makes sure that there's some option selected. If there is an error, then it will display the error message, and in any case, it returns the flag that indicates whether it's valid or not. So let's see how we use this. First of all, the form, I changed this button from just a regular button to a submit button. That is because I do want to send this data to the server to be processed. If we're doing everything in JavaScript, then this can be just a plain old button. But if we're submitting our page to the web server to be processed, this needs to be a submit button. I then have an onSubmit event associated to the form. And I say return validate form. Well, let's look at the validate form function. It returns a Boolean. It returns true if the data is okay. It returns a false if the data is not okay. So we're taking whatever is returned from this function and return that to the onSubmit event. What does it mean to return that to the onSubmit event? It's pretty simple. If we return a true to an onSubmit event, then the submit continues and we call the page that's listed as the action. In this case, process.html or process.php or whatever it would be. If this returns a false, we return the false to the onSubmit event, and that cancels the form being submitted. So we stay on the same page. So this accomplishes what we want to do. We will either catch the error and stay on the same page, or submit to the form if everything is okay. Submit the form to the processing page if everything is okay. Notice again, the results are immediate. It's going to be hard to tell about timing in this case because I'm running on a local machine, but the message is immediate, doesn't require loading another page or anything like that. All right, let's look at the example that we looked at last time. We looked at the chart, I believe, that shows ages, shows the range of heartbeats in the normal exercise heart range, and then it shows the maximum heartbeat. Today, we're going to look at the calculator. And for this calculator, normally you would validate both the age and the beats per 6 seconds, both on the client and the server side. The problem is it's hard to demonstrate the validation on the server side if I have a good validation on the client side. So I left the beats off of the client-side validation. So in other words, if we don't enter anything in the age, the client-side validation kicks in and it displays that we're missing an age. If, however, we put something in the age but miss the beats per 6 second box, normally our client-side validation would catch it. However, in this case, I'm letting it by and letting the server-side validation catch it. And it's telling me that the beats are not a number. And we can go back and correct it and resubmit it. You are in optimal exercise heart range. Now we're going to do this with 2 pages in today's example. We have a calculator, which is the form, and then we have the process page, which is the page that this submits to. We'll probably look at next week an example where the one page contains both the code to display the form and the code to process the form once it's been entered. That's an approach that's a good approach because then if data is missing or inaccurate, you would be right on the page with the form to correct it. You would not have to hit the back button to go back to the form and correct it. But for simplicity's sake today, we put the code, we spread the code across 2 different pages. The calculator page that has the form and the process page, which is called check range, that actually does the checking to make sure that the user's heartbeat is in the range or not. Okay, let's look at these. The calculator page like the other one, it has a return validate form. So we call the validate form function, which will either return a true or false. So we'll either go ahead and submit the form to this page, or we will not. If this is true, we will submit. If it's not, we will not submit. Let's look at the validate form. In this case, we have sort of a weak validation. We're just looking to see if literally they put nothing in the age box. So if they put a non-numeric field on the age box, this client side would let it slide, and hopefully the server side would pick up that validation. This sort of demonstrates, again, like what I said with credit cards, that you might be able to validate some things on the client side, but we're pretending we can't validate it's a number on the client side. So we set it to true. If this condition is true, we set it to false. We display our error messages, and we return that true or false, valid or invalid. That gets returned in turn to the on submit event, which either continues submitting to the page or blocks the submission to the page. Let's look at the check range page. All right, the check range page really has very little code in it. And I did this to sort of show how clean you can make the code by using include files. Now, in this example, I put stuff in the check range include file that actually I could have or maybe even should have included in the main page itself, because the check range is specifically written for this page in mind, and therefore there's no effort made to make that code reusable. All right, because there has to be some code that links your user interface to your scripting, and so this is a code that does that. But I did put it in an include file just to sort of illustrate how clean the code gets. The code that's not in the include file, the code that processes the page, is it calls the validate form function. If the form is valid, that is, if this function returns a true, we go ahead and display output. If it's not true, we do not display the output. So let's look at the check range include, and let's start looking at the validate form function. Sort of like the JavaScript version, I set the valid flag to true. I grab the age and the number of beats per 10 seconds, or per 6 seconds rather, from the form. The request, again, will pull either in the forms collection or the query string the data that's passed. So if we use a post or a get, this will pull the data. I use the isSet function, and isSet simply looks to see if there is any value in that variable. So if there was anything passed on the query string for txt age. If not, then I know that there's a problem with the data, and I set valid to false. And I display the error message saying that there's no value for age. I do the same thing with beats. I grab the value for number of beats per 6 seconds. I look to make sure there's a value for that. If not, I do not continue to the next page. I then check to see if the value is numeric. So I'm doing that little bit extra validation on the server side that I pretended I couldn't do on the client side. Finally, I also check to see if the beats is a numeric field or not. So if any of these 4 conditions are true, if the field is empty, either the fields are empty or either the fields are not a number, I set the valid to false and display the error messages. I return that valid flag to be false, and we do not go ahead and display the output. All right. If, however, the data doesn't meet any of these 4 problem conditions, then the valid flag will be true, and we'll call display output. Display output, again, grabs the age and the beats, and it calls a function that exists in heart inc. And this function is written very generically, so this belongs in an include file because it has nothing to do with this page. This function could be used on really any page. I give it an age, I give it the number of beats, and I give it how many seconds. So on one page, I might tell the user to take their heartbeat for 60 seconds. In other cases, I may take the heartbeat for 6 seconds and then multiply it by 10. So I go and I calculate how many beats per minute it actually is. All right. I then call this function that we looked at before to calculate the minimum exercise rate for that age and the maximum. I'm not returning a Boolean for this function. So I'm not returning simply if it's in range or not. I'm returning 3 values. It can either be below the minimum, inside the range, or greater than the maximum. So therefore, I don't use a Boolean. I use a -1 for less than a minimum, a 1 for greater than maximum, and a 0 if it's smack dab right in the proper range. So this will return that value. And based on what is returned, we either display that we're in the range, we're below the optimal, or above the optimal. And that's it for this code. The things I want to focus on is how we did the server-side validation, the particular statements that we used. Is set, is numeric. As I mentioned before, the stuff in this include file is written specific to this page. It looks at items right on the page. Not on the page, but that were passed from the form. So yeah, I guess it is specific to this page. So if we move this check range include file to another page, if the other page was set up differently, the query string looked different or something along those lines, then this code wouldn't work. So again, I could have not included this in an include file, but again, I did just to simply show the clarity. So go through this example. As I mentioned before, this is where we have a separate page for the form and then a separate page for the processing of the form. We can actually combine the two into one page, and that's probably actually the optimal thing to do, but I wanted to sort of introduce these concepts with you in the simpler case where we have one page for the form and one page for the processing of the form. If we put the processing code in the same page that displays the form, then we have a few things that we have to do. All right, and we'll probably look at that next time. And it's better again because it keeps you on the page where the form is. So if there is a server-side error, we can easily correct it and resubmit it without having to hit the back button. So review these 2 examples. They are in the week 10 module. Review them. Let me know if there are any questions, and keep posted to Canvas for updates on the situation on campus and how that will affect this class. All right, take care.